Hi, my name is Tim, and when considering homeostasis, it's important to understand that it's a series of regulations that achieve this. And one of the central points of regulation is the metabolism and regulation of glucose. Some important objectives to really focus on is being able to define glycolysis, insulin, glucagon, glycogen, and understand their roles and what's going on. Should be able to describe where glycolysis takes place and where glucose is stored and when it is broken down. And lastly, what you want to be able to explain is what roles do insulin and glucagon play in the stimulation of glucose release or storage. And overall, we want to be able to understand the importance of regulating and maintaining homeostasis. So what we see here is an overview of glucose as far as it being stored or being broken down. And it's important to really, start by kind of understanding the two main hormones that stimulate it. So we'll see here that glucagon is in the middle, and this is what's going to this is what's going to stimulate the release of glucose. And glucagon, of course, comes from the pancreas. And then insulin is what's going to stimulate glucose uptake from the blood and cause it to be stored as glycogen, and that's in an active form. So think about when you have a large meal, and it might be something towards the end of the day when you're not going to be very active. You would find that you'll have high levels of blood sugar, and that's because you'll eat something and a lot of its parts are broken down into glucose, and you won't be burning a lot of that right away. So glycolysis wouldn't be necessary. In this event, that's where insulin would be released from the pancreas, and this would stimulate your glucose being stored as glycogen in an active form. And glycogen would be then broken down if you were low on energy and you did not have a meal right away. That's where we would have glycogen broken down back into glucose and released into the blood. So it's important to understand in homeostasis in general, our environment is always changing. What we need to do in order to be successful, to adapt to our environment, changes on a regular basis. And this is why this is highly regulated. We'll see here that high blood sugar, so after having a large meal, again, this would promote insulin release from the pancreas and cause your glucose to be stored for a later time, maybe at a time when you're not able to get to a meal and you do need that energy to be broken down from glucose. And when you have low blood sugar, this will promote the release of glucagon, which will then break down the glycogen into glucose that can also be broken down by glycolysis for energy. And this is the main idea of homeostasis, being able to adapt to different levels of energy, being able to control a static environment, internal environment, as opposed to the ever-changing outside environment.